Even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will they be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream.
That's crazy because I was raised that way. I was raised in the house, because like I said, I came from a community that was, like 25 people lived on my street, and my parents knew everyone,
Right.
and it was never a time where I wouldn't see my mom, or I wouldn't see my mom and the neighbors coming over, or them just having coffee out on the porch together, or just sitting
Don't you
there,
miss those days?
That you say that, man, because I don't think kids now coming up realize that these were what they call struggle meals for us were actual meals, and I'm saying like
the hamburger helpers, the tuna helpers.
Man.
No, I know what you mean, man. And like I see tuna helper because I work at a grocery store, so I see these things and I'm thinking to myself like, this stuff is so cheap, but man, did it hit? Like,
it hit differently. Yeah, it really did. Did you say that?
Now, the last question I'm going to ask everybody, and I started this because of a podcaster I follow named Chris Van Vliet, and he talks about gratitude being such a huge part of his life. Every morning and every night, he starts his day the same way by saying three things that he is grateful for. As we sit here today, what are three things you are grateful for? Obviously, I cannot thank you enough for doing this, but I end every podcast with two questions, and I want to ask. The first one is actually it all started with King Uno. King Uno used to ask this question in every podcast. He'd go, "Who's King Uno?" And it was always a question he would ask. Well, now we're continuing that because it's still the podcast, just minus King Uno. So that being said, who is Star King Gaming to you? What is going on? It is your boy Star King Gaming with another episode of Star King Gaming Presents Storytime. In this week's story, we have the legendary Pick City, aka D Miles. You're probably wondering to yourself, what's going on with the change in the intro? Well, starting February 1st, it is Black History Month in the United States. That being said, we are going to be playing part of the infamous I Have a Dream speech by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. One of the greatest speeches of all time. Everybody has probably heard it if they're above 21. The infamous I Have a Dream, that one day, and so on and so on. A speech that hits the heart and hits the soul. Dr. Martin Luther King put a lot of heart into it. Originally, I don't think that part of the speech was supposed to be in there. From what I gathered, I heard multiple stories, but there was a gospel singer that was in the stands, and she made a comment about, "Tell him about your dream, doctor. Tell him about your dream," or some of that lines. And then that's when he went on a different tangent and kind of went off script of his speech. I could be wrong. That's just one of the things I read recently. I mean, if that's true, that's so amazing. But to do the world justice, I decided to interview two amazing people in my life who are both African American. D Miles, I love him like a brother, one of my best friends in the world. And then the next one is going to be King Uno, somebody who I love more than I love D Miles. If it wasn't for this guy, I wouldn't have met D Miles, and that's King Uno. King Uno is my brother. I love him. I absolutely I'm thankful he's in my life. So he's coming back for at least a one time for the one time. Okay, so be on the listen to that. I can't wait to hear what that is going to sound like. Now let's talk about the podcast as a whole. Originally, the podcast we were covering some of our fellow content creators. It originally started off with me and King Uno. We had a few other people that were with us. We were talking sports. We were talking, streamers. The behind the scenes looks of streamers and so forth. That all being said, we decided to switch things up. We being me and King Uno, we decided to just kind of go solo with it in a sense, even though we were doing. And King Uno brought up a point like, we don't need to have everybody else. It could just be me and you and then whoever we're interviewing. So that's what we did. It went well for a little while. And then we kind of quit podcasting for a short while. And then it was brought to our attention about covering wrestling. And in particular, the Attitude Era. So Nambo was the one that brought that up, and King Uno and I were like, hey, we're down. And Nambo became a third wheel, so to speak, for the podcast. And boy, we had a lot of fun. I really enjoyed those podcasts. I would love to do those again. And then things started happening, and eventually it became just me. I was doing them solely, and that's where Starking Gaming Presents came about. And then I did one last podcast where I was going to bring King Uno in, and we were going to redo the whole thing and bring back the Kingdom Talks with Kings. And it just never happened, unfortunately. Now, to get to where we are today, recently, in the last year or so, I had this itch to get back into podcasting, and it really started when I was working at CBS. And I had a lot of free time, and I started thinking about maybe doing a podcast, and I didn't know what I was going to do. So then I started listening to the podcast. I listened and I listened. I enjoyed it, but I started to hear that there was not a lot of relevance to the podcast. King Uno made a comment, it's a sad day in history when the Lions are a better team than the Texans. Both teams were pretty bad at that year. I want to say it was like 2021. I could be wrong. Could be 2020. And I remember listening to a few other podcasts and hearing things that like, the Lions are going to be bad for a couple of years, but who knows? Coaching could change things. And, they have gotten better. This year we had a lot of injuries, so we're not going to talk too much about the Lions. In this podcast, I'm sorry. Who knows? Me and D might get into sports tangents. Anyway. I was like, there's no relevance to this podcast. So then I said, well, what about if we covered like something different? Like, what do I need to cover to make the podcast good? I sat down and I started listening to certain podcasters, and I said, what is this guy? This guy's good. And then one particular podcaster made some advice. He said, KISS, keep it simple, stupid. Don't overdo it. And then he made a comment. He goes, if you're really passionate about something, cover that thing. Find your niche, and guaranteed you're going to have success. I started listening, and I listened really good to him, and I was like, okay, I like this guy. His name's Chris Van Vliet. And then I really started getting into him, and then I started realizing, like, what do I love? What am I passionate about? And mental health was pretty big in my life. It all started back in high school. One of my best friends at the time, named James Piniak, committed suicide because he was being bullied. Broke my heart. And to this day, I miss him. I wish he could have got to see my family and, my son, my daughter. I wish he could have been a part of them growing up. He would have been a perfect uncle. But then I started thinking about other things. Like what about men's mental health? I started looking into some things. Suicide rate in 2023 was outrageously high for men. Over 70% of the suicide rates were men. 2024, similar. It was 68 plus percent. 2025, ironically, I did not get a chance to look at it, but I'm hoping that it's going down. It went from 72 to 68. I'm hoping that the rate is going down. I'm hoping. I really am. But if we can make an impact, I want to. And I wrote down a list of the men that in my life that I know have dealt with things and maybe could be a help to somebody else. And the first person on that list was a guy named Ruben, who obviously we interviewed. Ruben dealt with infant loss. He also dealt with miscarriages. And I knew he could be a huge help to somebody out there. Ironically, they are expecting their third child to be after the infant loss, and of course, their current kids. So will have Christian Sebastian, and then I don't know what they're having yet. I'd have to look, but they're gonna have at least 2 little ones running around, and I can't wait to see what they have. I gotta look into it. They might have posted something about it since then. Anyway, that's neither here or there. But then I started getting other people involved, people that mean a lot to me. And I noticed that the podcast, the first one was was good. I think it had like 500 and something views on YouTube. I want to say only had like 1,000 listens on Spotify. When I last looked, I think it was like in the 1,200 range. It could have been higher. I could be wrong. Maybe it's 2,200, and that's still pretty solid for a podcast that was kind of gone away for a while. Well, then we really started picking up when we did the Alex Miller podcast. That was the first big podcast that really took off. And instantly I saw something and we stuck with it. It's been a great ride. I've enjoyed every second of it. And I'm very grateful that you guys are going to be a part of it. Now, to get to future podcasts, I mentioned King Uno's coming back for a one-off at least, one time. Star Queen's going to be doing one for the month of March because our birthday's March 10th. Get her in here. I have a few other people lined up, so we got a lot coming up. Now, to talk about our sponsor, Kickoff. Kickoff is a wonderful program that will help build your credit for as little as $5 a month. To sign up, you click the link that will be in each podcast, and we both get $30. How does Kickoff work? As I mentioned, for as little as $5 a month, it will report to one credit bureau. If you do the $20 plan, it will report to all three, build your credit faster. If you do the $35 plan, it will report to all three, plus it will show that you're paying more off on a loan. So, how you want to do it is up to you. I do the $5 a month plan. I love it. It's built my credit a lot. I started this journey in August 20th of 2025. My credit score was terrible. It was at 540. Terrible. And now it's over 600 for the first time in years. To be fair, I went a long time without doing anything with my credit, so I kind of messed up my own credit. But to have it over 600 is amazing. It's a blessing. I can't wait to see what 2026 holds. I'm hoping by the end of the year I have it in the 700s, but who's to say? It won't be higher, it won't be lower. You never know. That's the thing about the credit scores. This is hard to gauge. Anyway, for as little as $5 a month, you can be a part of this wonderful program. You're probably thinking to yourself, oh, this is how Star King gets his money. No, I don't care if you guys sign up for it. This is something I actually genuinely use. I love it. It is a wonderful app. I highly recommend it. So please, at least give it a look. Now, to get on with the podcast this week, as I mentioned, we got the legendary Pick City. I love him. He's a wonderful person. I don't know much about his personal life, and that's what I love about these podcasts. I get to learn a lot about people. So I'm excited. So without any further ado, let's get into the podcast. And we are back with another edition of Star King Gaming Presents Storytime. In this week's story, we have Pick City himself, D Miles, whatever you want to know him as. D is, to me, a brother. I met him, I believe, through King Uno. I could be wrong, but through King Uno. D is a content creator on Twitch. I will be putting his Twitch into the description, so don't worry, it'll be there for you guys. He's a wonderful human being. He's somebody that has blessed my streams in more ways than one. He's always been one of those guys that tries to get into every single stream as he can. I know it's hard because of the time frames and what have you. But D, It's great to have you here. I cannot wait for this. This is your story. So let's start with it, man. Let's start with your childhood. What was your childhood like?
Oh man, childhood was pretty awesome. I'm a child of military parents, so basically a military brat. I got to travel a lot as a kid, as in young age, as far as going different places in America and just picking up different cultures and just living the military life as a military kid.
Right.
So childhood was pretty awesome. Strict, very strict home, upbringing and whatnot, which kind of structured a lot of things, as in who I am now as a human being and as an adult.
I could see that just by what I know of you, your personality. Yeah, I could see you having a strict upbringing. That's kind of cool. Like now, the more I'm hearing this, the more I'm realizing, yeah, this is, yeah.
Exactly, man. Exactly what it is. It molded me, and I couldn't be more thankful for the parents that I had, even though them being in the military, so as much wasn't much as being there as possible, but that upbringing a lot just it molded me and who I am, man. And I appreciate them and just utmost thankful for that, because without that, I don't think I would be who I am now.
And to touch on your childhood, did you have any brothers, sisters?
I'm the baby out of 5.
Okay. What other siblings do you have? If you don't mind me asking.
I have two older sisters and 3 older brothers.
Okay, that's pretty cool. That's awesome. This is something I literally did not know. I didn't know you had any brothers or sisters at all.
Yeah, very huge family. Very huge.
Nothing wrong with it, man. Nothing wrong with it, because some people have big families. I myself am not in a big family. It's just me and my brother, and then other siblings kind of came along. Now I got King Uno. Now I got you.
Right.
But yeah, no, it's cool. Like I said, this is what I love about these podcasts, because I get to learn about people who I actually love, and I don't know why I didn't start this earlier, because this has been an amazing experience. I've really enjoyed every single second of it. But yeah, sorry about that. I was just curious about that. But go back to your childhood, man.
Like I said, pretty much, strict childhood upbringing. I play a lot of sports, numerous sports. I actually one of my actual sports I started out playing before I started doing football was actual soccer and baseball. So that was different. My dad coached me most of my baseball and soccer career. As more and more I got to playing into high school sports, I leaned towards football, which my mom, she wasn't too fond of, but I guess
of course what mom is.
Yeah, I guess she got it after a while when she figured out I was pretty good at it.
Right.
Other than that,
what positions did you play in baseball, soccer, and football?
Soccer, I was a goalie, which was kind of on as scary part as a kid, because I used to someone kicking balls at you and you trying to stop them from scoring, but it was something different. Like I said, when I picked it up, it was that, and then baseball. With baseball, I played outfield and shortstop. Okay. I kind of leaned into pitching a little bit more when my dad started, showing me how to throw the curveball, fastball, the change up and stuff like that. But it wasn't like a starting pitcher role. It was kind of like, I'd come in, mid innings and close out or whatever or whatnot.
Okay, but, so like a setup closer kind of role. That's cool.
The baseball thing kind of took me into traveling ball. Of course, with Little League and everything during that time, you travel a lot during the summer. So when we finally settled in, I was traveling all over the world with baseball. But yeah, man, that's just that childhood was pretty good. I can say I was very blessed as a child to do some of the things that I got to do at an early age.
That's awesome. Yeah. It's good, and having strict parents, can be a curse and a blessing,
Yeah.
because it's one of those things as a kid you don't see it for what it is until you get older. Like my
Hmm.
parents were real strict on certain things, and I'm glad they were because otherwise I would have been running wild, and
Right,
it would have
right,
ended up like my brother is, and into drugs
right.
and whatnot. And it's like I'm so thankful that my mom was a little bit harder on me than she was my brother Larry because it
Hmm.
allowed me to be the man that I am.
Right.
But yeah, it's awesome. Strict parents is, like I said, when you're a kid, it sucks because you're like, man, I want to go do this. They won't
I
let
want to
me.
go do this. And it's a lot of things like yeah, it's a lot of things that you want to go do, but like also like you can't go do those things because it'll get you in some major trouble.
And you don't want to get in trouble when you got strict parents because those
Right.
ass whippings are a little different.
Oh man, oh my God, the ass whoopings were different. Like I can remember, my neighborhood that I grew up in, was like maybe like 20, 25 people on my street. And, all the kids played with each other and all the
Right.
parents hung out and did like the softball games and the baseball games and the soccer games on the weekend. So like we would constantly see each other, whether it was in school or during the weekend. But on the times during the weekend, if you fucked up as a child in that village, they would literally, yeah, you would feel it because you would get 30 ass whoopings by the time you got home to your mom and dad, and that's two more ass whoopings you got to deal with.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's cool. Whereabouts did you grow up? Because I know obviously you said military, so most likely you probably traveled a lot.
I did oh man, with Germany.
Oh, okay.
Germany was a big part. I did a lot of Texas, South Carolina. Oh man, see, where else do I remember? I remember being in Spain at one time. Um, Spain was different because I knew nothing about Spanish as a kid, so
Right.
it was just hearing the different language and the culture and the food. It was that was something different. But like I was all over the place. But those are some of the places that I can top off and remember as a
You
kid.
say Spain was different, but obviously in a good way, cultural way,
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
That's pretty cool. Germany too. Yeah. One of the guys I interviewed, he was when I first started talking to him, he was actually stationed out in Germany. He's in the
Okay.
military. He's in the army. So
Hmm.
he was stationed out there. So it's kind of cool. It's like, it's wild like all these stories I'm hearing from people, or rather they're military or their family, their father or mother was military.
Right, right,
It's
right.
crazy,
It's a
man.
lot of
It's
us
nice.
that have that background, and like I said, it's a lot of it is moving around, but at the same time, excuse me, that you just get to see the world, man, and not a lot of people can say that in an early age they got to see the world.
Yeah, and that's, it's a humbling experience, especially, I'm sure, 'cause, now it's like you kinda wish you could do it again, I'm sure, 'cause
Yeah.
it's
Hmm.
there's so many
Hmm.
beautiful places in the world. We
Oh
don't
man.
we take it for granted, like, even in California, there's a lot of beautiful places, like, and they might not be beautiful to everybody, but, like, for me, it's like,
Hmm.
I love those old towns that, like, those they look like almost like ghost towns nowadays,
But
there's
like
not
yeah,
a
like no one lives there. Like no
yeah,
one lives there.
it's like nobody lives there, but yet there's, farmland. I love it. I think that's beautiful to me. I mean, everybody
Yeah,
has their own
yeah,
preference, but
yeah.
some people like the city life. I'm not that kind of guy.
Yeah,
I
I look, I don't, and it's crazy for me saying that, being that I've been in those different areas that I've never really been a big city guy anyways. You can give
yeah,
me, small time country living and I'll be just as happy as I am if I was in the city. But, I never really did the big city living.
yeah. That's nothing wrong with it. Like I said, growing up, your childhood seems like it was very good, very structured, and that's a positive thing. So I'm imagining you graduated high school.
Yeah.
What happened during that time frame? Did you go to college? Did you?
Um, I did. I went to college for 2 years. I went to JUCO college actually.
Okay.
Um, out there in Illinois at Illinois State University.
Oh, okay.
Go Redbirds. Did that, played a little bit of JUCO ball out there, ran track. But basically, yeah, I was doing that and picking up a good education out there. That was different. Just kind of like getting away from mom and dad for a little bit and just kind of like growing and getting my own wings right then and there. And just with Illinois was different. I liked the school. If I had a chance to do it again, I probably would have did it, differently. Instead of a JUCO, I probably would have went, to an actual 4-year school and,
right.
Transferred and did something else at that school. But, JUCO was a pretty good experience for me.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Just curiosity. What was your childhood dream job?
Childhood dream job at the time, I wanted to be an engineer.
Okay. Nothing wrong with that. That's pretty cool. Everybody has different things with, so that means you're more mechanically inclined than I am for sure, because it's not something I'm interested in.
Right.
I'm more of a computer guy right now, but back then, even then, I was never really into like fidgeting with stuff. But a lot of people wanted to be engineers because they were just interested how things worked, and it's cool.
Yep.
Nothing wrong with it. So you went to Illinois State. That's pretty cool. I didn't know you even went to JUCO. To be honest, again, like this is the greatest thing about learning about people, because I only know you for the last 4 or 5 years or so.
Yeah, about 5 years.
Yeah, somewhere in that time frame. So I've only known that part of your life. I didn't know anything prior. You might have mentioned some things here and there, but never really anything too much, too descriptive, I guess.
Yeah.
So during your time in college, what was some interactions you might have had that rather good or bad? I know college can be a interesting time for some of us.
My college experience was pretty good. I guess it was I can remember a lot of the crazy fraternity parties going out there, and a lot of the parties after ball games. But pretty much my college experience was pretty good. I've met like so many different friends. A lot of my friends were from my engineering class, and also from guys from track and football team, and just like I had a very good popularity in school. I wasn't the over popular guy, but yeah, I had my little crew that I hung out with.
You might not have been the most popular guy, but you were somebody that based off your personality, I can see you were somebody that people knew.
Yeah, definitely.
You're one of those people. It's just based off of what I know of you. You're one of those people. You smile and say hi to everybody, because
definitely.
I'm the same way. I'm the same exact way.
Definitely people person.
I had a guy ask me a few days ago, actually, one of our vendors, and he goes, "How come, man? Like, he goes, I'm just curious, and nothing wrong, man, but you always go out of your way to say hi to me, man." And he goes, "I'm not mad." And he goes, "I know it sounds like I'm being, mad or something." He goes, "I'm just curious because like nobody else goes out of the way to say hi to everybody."
Right.
You never know what somebody's going through. A simple hello can make or break somebody's day.
Can change their day. It seriously change their day.
Yeah.
They could be actually going through something, and
just a simple smile and hey, how you doing, man? It could start a conversation.
Right.
I read an article. I'll have to see if I can find it. That there was this guy out here in San Francisco, because I live near San Francisco, but apparently he was having really, he was doing a test, a theory of sorts, and he said, he wrote a note. It ended up becoming a suicide note. He said that if he's going to walk all the way to the Golden Gate Bridge, and if not one person smiles and acknowledges him, he's going to jump off the bridge.
Oh, wow.
He got all the way to the bridge. Nobody smiled and nodded. And he jumped off the bridge, committing suicide.
Wow.
It was like he did his own little test, and it's like I read that so many years ago. It's been a few years, and I told myself I don't want to be that person. So like anytime I see somebody,
I don't want to be that person that lets someone not experience, even if it's a little bit of happiness, some type of happiness, because like you said, that happiness might stop them from killing themselves.
Yeah, a little smile and a little fist pump or whatever, what have you, you know,
Right.
might go a long way. You just don't know what somebody's going through. But
You
yeah, I can
never
see you
know.
being the same way as me in that regard, like smiling. And I was never like the most popular kid, but I was one of those guys that like everybody knew because I always, would say hi to everybody. I don't know
Yeah.
what it was, the way my grandparents raised me and my
But
mom
see,
and dad raised me.
That's crazy because I was raised that way. I was raised in the house, because like I said, I came from a community that was, like 25 people lived on my street, and my parents knew everyone,
Right.
and it was never a time where I wouldn't see my mom, or I wouldn't see my mom and the neighbors coming over, or them just having coffee out on the porch together, or just sitting
Don't you
there,
miss those days? You,
yeah,
I miss them,
man,
man.
I'm telling you, those
It's back in the
you can't.
day, back when we were kids. How old are you, D? If you don't mind me asking.
46,
Okay, so
46.
you're a few years older than me. You're about 7 years
Mhm.
older than me. So you're not a lot older than me. I actually wasn't sure. Honestly thought you were a couple years older, but so
Mhm.
you know better than me because I remember as a kid, man, like my grandma would go next door, like she'd make us breakfast, me and my brother,
Mhm.
and then she'd go
Mhm.
next door and talk to the neighbor, hang out with the neighbor. They
Mhm.
they left the doors unlocked, with the front doors
Yeah,
always unlocked. People
always
walked
unlocked.
in. I remember one time we
Always
had
unlocked.
a family gathering and some random person walked in. And they were at the wrong house, and we didn't know
Yeah.
who they were. We were all welcoming them in, and they're like, "Oh my
Mhm.
god, I think
Mhm.
I'm in the wrong house."
No, and it's crazy. It's crazy that you say that because my mom literally, when my some of my friends would come over, whether it was when I was younger, when I was in middle school, when I was in high school or college, anytime any of my friends came over, my mom made sure they ate.
Yeah,
Like my mom would literally feed my friends before she would probably ask me if I was hungry. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
And it wasn't nothing to like spite me. That's
right.
just
That's just how they
that's
were.
just who she was. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's how she was.
I my grandma grew up in Missouri, so I always say it's that southern, hospitality,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
it could very well be that's what it is, but I
Yeah,
feel like that's just how it was back then.
yeah, yeah.
And nowadays it's like, you got to be careful because oh, my son's vegan. Like, what the fuck? Like, like,
Yeah,
you
right,
know,
right,
like we didn't
right.
have
Like
none of that shit when I was a kid.
if you would have walked in and told my dad on, while he's on the grill or whatnot on the porch, like, hey, Brian's vegan over here. He doesn't eat steak. What the fuck?
Yeah, like, do you
While
have
he's
any
while
vegan options? Like, fuck no, you're in the wrong house.
there
It's
was
called
no
salad.
there would be no type of options.
No, exactly, man.
you either wanted to eat or you didn't. Yeah,
I get it though too. Like some people, they can't have certain meats because their bodies can't process it. That's one thing.
right,
If it's a
right.
health reason, but if you're doing it just to be that person, like
Be that
you
person.
would
Yeah.
not have lasted in my household.
Mm-mm, mm-mm.
We were having beef stews all the time. We had chicken and dumplings all the time. We had.
Oh, oh,
I
yes.
remember when I used to go to the neighbors. She used to make chitlins. Oh my god, man! I put a little bit of
Yeah.
hot sauce in it. Ooh,
Mm-hmm.
boy, I love that. I can't do it no
Yeah.
more, man. My stomach,
Can't
I
do
can't
it.
have hot sauce. The chitlins I
Yeah,
probably can
me
handle.
either. Me either. Yeah, yeah. That's like one of the things and that's one of the things I can actually say that I missed as an adult because back then I could throw it down with the best of them when my
Right,
mom would cook, but now
right.
like my mom's 88 years old and I'm still blessed to have her. My dad passed when I was 21, but when my mom's still cooking like she does, it's like, hey, I want to go and pig out at mom's one day, and my stomach won't allow me to do it.
Just
My
just
stomach will not
curious
allow me to do
about
it right now.
something. What is one of your favorite dishes that your mom makes? Just curious.
Oh man,
Or a few. Name a few. It
honest,
don't have to be
honest,
just one.
honest, honestly, I had a few. A lot of people, kids nowadays will look at these as struggle meals, but just this fast meal of pork and beans and rice.
Okay.
And you cut the bacon and the sausage and put it up in there. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Like that on a Monday with some fried chicken. Oh my God! My mom with the spaghetti, the homemade baked spaghetti, the homemade lasagna. I mean, the woman could throw down. Like
So
she.
pork. You said pork and beans, right? I want to make sure I'm hearing that right.
Mm-hmm.
You did okay, man. I'll tell you something, man. What I used to do is when I was single,
Mm-hmm.
I would make like minute rice, put it at the
Okay.
bottom, and then put pork and beans on top, and then heat it up for about 30 seconds because the minute
Yeah.
rice was already hot.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd eat it just like that, man, and it'd be a good meal for me. I
I'm
miss that.
telling you.
I haven't had that
And
in years.
my mom would literally make that. She would literally make that with some fried chicken on Monday, or what I'm saying, or Sunday, or well, of course, Sundays were like big meals, but like after,
Correct.
I can remember a lot of times, like after my dad had passed, and where it was just me and my mom come out, I was the youngest one. I was always, the one, home with her somehow, some
Yeah,
way, regardless of what it was, me being off from school or whatnot. That those type of meals, just like
it hit
she,
different. Yeah.
yeah, they made a difference. They made a difference.
I'm gonna say something. My mom makes this meal now. It's really simple. It's rice with
Mhm.
like chicken broth and then chicken thighs, all in like
Okay,
these
yeah,
giant things, and she bakes
yeah,
it. And I
hmm
tell you, man, every single time she makes it, it's getting better and better and better. She adds different seasons and seasoning and stuff. Like
hmm
she'll use random seasonings like
hmm
onion powder, garlic powder, maybe like ranch seasoning. There's something different that she
yeah,
adds. I tell you,
yeah,
man, the days that she makes that stuff, man, those are the best days in the household for me because
oh yeah,
it's amazing. And it's
yeah,
weird,
yeah,
like my grandma. I gotta say this because my grandma used to cook a lot of things, and I used to watch her cook, and I try to cook the same exact way she does. I don't know what
hmm
she did differently.
It was made with love.
Oh, like, and I could even try, like, I could like do it the
It
same
was made.
exact way, and
It
it's
was.
just never as
Look,
good as hers.
it's crazy. It's crazy that you say that because like I call my mom and I ask for different recipes now from her,
Yeah,
and and she'll give it to me the exact tea how she makes it,
yeah,
and it still will not taste like hers. And I asked her one day, maybe a couple of weeks ago, she made something. She made home style chicken and dumplings, and I told her, I said, Mom, I made the same chicken and dumplings, a month of last year for Thanksgiving for myself, and it didn't taste as good as yours. Why is that? And she was like, because you didn't make it with love. She's like, everything I made for y'all, I made with love, so it
it hits
tasted
yeah, it
differently.
tasted better. Yeah, the
Yeah.
only thing that my mom and my grandma, well, my grandma's no longer alive, but the only thing that
hmm
I was able to actually outdo them on, and this is so
hmm
weird to say, but is egg salad. Like
Okay.
that's the only thing I can outperform any of them on. I don't know what I do different than they do. Maybe because I love egg
hmm
salad, so I put a little heart
Yeah.
into it.
Yeah.
But it's like my mom will tell you, like the best egg salad she's ever had is mine. And my grandma would have told you the same thing. Like she told one of her friends, and she goes, "You gotta have James's egg salad. It's the best." And then he goes, "Well, if it's that good, I'll go buy the stuff." But I said, "All I need
Right.
is eggs and mayonnaise,
And
and
mayonnaise, right?
and that's it." Like I said, I had on mine, I put pepper, but that's only on mine. I don't put it in the
hmm
actual finished product. And
Right.
he's all like, "That's it," and I was like, "Trust me, that's it. I don't know what it is, but it comes out perfect every single time." And so I made it for him, and he was like, "This is literally the best egg
It's the
salad
best.
sandwich I ever had."
Right. But it's crazy that you say that, man, because I don't think kids now coming up realize that these were what they call struggle meals for
Yeah,
us were actual meals, and I'm saying like
like the
they
hamburger
were,
helpers, the tuna
yeah,
helpers, yeah,
man, yeah, yeah,
like
like they,
it's yeah. No, I know what you mean, man. And like I see tuna helper because I work at a grocery store, so I see these things, and
Mhm.
I'm thinking to myself like, this stuff is so cheap, but man, did it hit? Like,
Yeah, yeah, it hit differently.
yeah,
Yeah, it really did. It really did. And I don't think like I don't think now how we're appreciative
yeah.
of what we went through, or what how we were raised, or just those small dishes and stuff like that. I don't think how other people will appreciate it like we do.
No, I agree. I think that a lot of the, you know, it it really started to go downhill after around the time I got out of high school that I really noticed it.
Hmm.
And when like I would go out, like, cause I was, obviously dating and before I met Marsha and whatnot, I
Hmm.
had plenty of relationships, and it was like they would see like Hamburger Helper, and they'd be like, "What are you about? Like what?"
What are
Like,
you
and I'm like,
doing?
"This is the
Yeah,
shit!" Like,
yeah, right,
and then like
right.
I would make it a little different. Like some people use ground beef, I would
Hmm.
actually put like Italian sausage in there, or
Right.
sometimes chicken. Like the tuna
Hmm.
helper, I did like a chicken helper kind of thing. I used to get
Right.
like chicken breast, cook it up, shred it, and then mix it in. And oh man, it hit. And then like it was like, man, this it was quick, easy meals, and I would get like the
Hmm.
weirdest looks, and probably why a lot of girls left me because they were so spoiled with like home cooked meals every single night. And yeah, they were home cooked meals to me, but
Right.
they might not be like like
Right.
your rice, your meat, and then whatever else. We didn't have that luxury
No,
of
at
having
all,
that
at
every single
all,
day.
at
Like
all,
you said,
at all.
Sundays, it was either Saturday or Sunday for us, and
Hmm.
that's because
Yeah,
the average American worked a Monday through Friday job. A lot of people
yeah.
go to church on Sunday,
Sunday.
so
Hmm.
they want to have friends come over after church. Maybe watch a
Yep.
football game, baseball game, whatever it may be.
Whatever. Right.
Yeah, so that was common, like for us. My grandma, who was retired basically since the day
Hmm.
I was born, I was blessed that she did a lot of cooking, and it was
Yeah.
never rarely was it with those nights where, oh, I'm not feeling good because guys maybe have cereal or
Right.
something. It was
Right.
always, even if she wasn't feeling well, she still cooked
So
something.
that's how my mom. That's how my mom is, and that's my mom. You know what I'm saying? And that's how she is, even at the ripe age of 88 years old. She can
The
sit
young
there,
age of
yeah,
88.
young age, yeah. She could say she's going through something, and like you'd walk through that door, and the first thing she's gonna ask you if you ate. You ate anything, and whether you wanted to eat or not, once you started smelling those aromas
Oh
come
yeah,
through that from that kitchen, you were going to eat something.
I gotta tell a story. This is a story I have. I don't. I'm pretty sure I've never told on any of the podcasts. Actually, has to
Hmm.
deal with Jamal Thomas. God rest his soul. Jamal and I used to hang out a lot back in the day, and he came over one
Hmm.
day and hung out at my house. He's always a big boy. I think at this
Right.
time he was like 6'2". My grandpa always called him Big Willie. I don't know where he got the
Hmm.
name Big Willie from. I don't know. My grandpa had nicknames for everybody except for me,
Right.
and yet I was his favorite grandkid. I don't understand it, but he never had a
Right.
nickname for me other than you. He always
Right.
called me you. But Jamal came over one day, and I'll never forget it. We're sitting in the family room, and my grandma, she goes, she asked Jamal if he wanted to stay for dinner,
Hmm.
and Jamal was kind of a shy guy, and he goes, "Oh, I don't
Yeah.
have to. I don't have to stay, Grandma. If if she goes, I didn't ask if I'm asking, do you want to stay?
Want to stay? Like, yeah.
Are
Like.
you hungry?" And
Hmm.
Jamal was like, "Well, I'm always hungry." And she goes, "Well, then I'm gonna make extra." Then she goes, "I wanted to know how much to make. I didn't want to make, not. I didn't want to make, enough for us and then not have anything for you." And
Right.
then
Right.
she asked, "Do you have any allergies?" And of course, the simple questions that you should ask. Well, she made pork chops, and when we
Okay.
had pork chops, we always had applesauce. Jamal was like
Hmm.
blown away. He's like, "What the fuck is the applesauce for?" I'm like,
Right.
"Oh, dude, it hits different. You got to try it." And he's like,
Yeah.
"All
Right.
right." So we had like asparagus, I believe. There was
Hmm.
salad. There was the pork chops. I mean, and then the
Hmm.
applesauce. And Jamal, he ate it all, and he was just blown away with how good it all tasted all
Right.
together. He was like, "Well, I have never heard of pork chops and applesauce." He goes, "From now on, that's the only way I'm going to eat this shit."
Hmm. Right. Right.
It's
Right.
kind of funny.
Right.
I'm pretty sure I never told that story on a podcast, but yeah, my grandma always took care of Jamal. She would always, every time he'd come over, she'd always ask, "Hey, are
Hmm.
you hungry?" And then,
Hmm.
she goes, "Oh, there's fruit in that cup. If you got, or there's fruit in there's a little basket on the table she added, and she always had
Hmm.
like,
Hmm.
apples, bananas, oranges,
Apple, bananas, oranges, or something. Yeah.
something in there." And she goes, "Snack on that. I'll make you guys something." And it was like always like that. My grandma was that way. My mom was always working when I was a kid, so she obviously
Hmm.
she couldn't do it. She's not there. But when she was
Right.
home, she would cook, and
Hmm.
one thing I don't know if your parents did it, but my mom kind of took care of us kids as if they were her own.
Yeah, yeah. Oh
Like
man,
all the
like
kids were her kids.
a lot of my friends, still to this day, they asked about my mom, and they're like, man, I can remember days where, we'd get up Saturday morning at like 7 o'clock in the morning to come over and play basketball, because I was the only kid, in that backyard that had a full court basketball and
Nice,
basketball court in the back.
nice.
I'm serious. Like my dad, he took a area in the grass, because we lived on a big, about an acre and a half of land,
Okay,
and like he separated it away from the house so we wouldn't have to worry about the ball hitting the house or anything,
right.
and made a full court basketball. It started off as one hoop, and then as I got older, it was just like, why not? Let's put two. Why not put two over there? So he ended up putting two over there. I think when I was probably like 13 or 14, and every Saturday morning, kids used to get up, 6, 7, 8 o'clock, sometimes 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning, and they'd come knock on the door. My mom would be cooking breakfast. They'd walk in
Yeah,
and they'd literally knock on the door, and my mom would be like, "Come on in," and they'd come in, and it'd be like my friend Brian or my friend Martin, my cousin Andrew from up the corner,
it's amazing, man. I'm
and
glad
yeah,
we had
yeah,
the same
man.
kind of growing up. I always wanted that, for my kids, and it sucks
Hmm.
because we're in a whole different society now, where you can't
Yeah.
even
Oh
trust your
man.
neighbor.
Right. Right.
It's sad. I mean, I live in the same area I kind of grew up in, the same town, I
Hmm.
should say,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
it's totally different from when I was Maddie's age to where it is
Hmm.
now.
Hmm.
Like, there's places that you don't even want to walk around in the daytime or in the nighttime. And
Right.
before, man, we were always
It's,
out hanging out.
it's the
And when I
same.
was,
It's the same way here for me here in South Carolina. My mom stays in Somerville, and here's some areas here in Somerville that as a kid we would go and play football at. I'm just talking about like these fields that they just literally cut down and it just be nothing but grass. We would
yeah,
find these areas and play football, baseball, kickball all day. Like I said, with the
yeah,
kids coming over to my house and playing basketball, we did that all day, and literally, you know, my mom would, like I said, my mom come outside, make sure we had something to drink. She'd give
yeah.
everybody some
I remember
a
those. Yeah, my mom always
glass of
would grab a, we
food.
used to have what do you call that? The big giant coolers, the igloo coolers.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
she would go to the local store, grab Gatorades, Powerades,
Yep.
whatever it was. I
Yep.
don't recall. And then a thing of ice, and then she say, "You guys got drinks in here? When you're hungry, come inside. I'll make you guys something to eat." And it was
Hmm.
like, wow, like she would go get sandwiches or whatever. It was like the
Right.
coolest thing, man. And it was like all the kids. Like my mom did not like for example, if I was hanging out with one of my friends and she wanted to take me somewhere like clothes shopping, she'd go, "Hey, you want to go
Hmm.
too?" I
You
remember
want to go?
the
Yeah.
kid next door, Jed, would
That's
go all the
my
time.
mom. She would never send, like, if my friends were there and we was going somewhere or we had to rush and go somewhere. Hey, you want to go too? Well, call your mom and ask your mom if you can go.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That
Call your dad and ask your dad if you can go.
I kind of forgot about that part.
She
Yeah,
would not send them home. Yeah, she would not send them home.
yeah,
My mom wanted my friends to be with me everywhere. Like, she would even ask them sometimes, you want to stay over on the weekend so you can go to church with us, and we do that. Like, it's crazy, man. Like those times then, I'm so thankful for it now because
it built your
you know,
character.
yeah, it built who I am. It built
I
who I am.
wish, I wish that we could go back to those days because it's something that you know a lot of these kids nowadays are sheltered, and COVID did not help that.
Right.
Obviously, and it's nobody's fault. That's nobody's fault. Like they had to shut down.
Hmm.
They had to. It was just
Right.
to save us.
To save us. Yeah.
And,
Yep.
and it's so unfortunate that these kids they're online learning, which for some kids is great. I understand some kids they learn better you know, when they're not around a lot of people, because some people are socially, you know, uncomfortable. But
Right.
most of the kids that I know, including me and my brothers, you know, when we were
hmm
kids, man, we wanted to go out, we wanted to go to school, we wanted to go,
Oh
you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
and
Loved going out though outdoors. Like,
yeah,
and that's what I don't think some of these kids understand now. Like, when their parents say go outside, like our parents would tell us to go outside, and you know, be just as long as you're back before the street lights cut on.
right, right,
That was my parents' true meaning of going outside.
yeah,
Yes, we had the video game systems. Yes, we had a Nintendo and Atari or PlayStation or
right,
whatnot. But
whatnot, yeah,
our mom and dad did not allow us to be confided into that room and in front of that TV screen. It was like, hey, because like I said, it was always something. It was always something to do outdoors. At least for
right.
me, it was. Because like I said, I played sports and had friends coming over. So it was just like I was always outside. I just
I
never was stuck inside.
My mom, whenever, even if I like, let's say I had a report card that was straight F's, even if I had a
hmm
report card straight F's, the one thing she would never take away is outside. Like
Yeah,
she would take away
yeah.
all the games, she'd take away all
hmm
TV, everything. Like
hmm
as soon as it was dark outside, I had to sit at the kitchen table, facing the kitchen, not the
hmm
front room. So I couldn't watch TV.
Right, that's on TV. Yeah, exactly,
I had to make sure all
exactly.
my homework was done, and then that way my brother could be in our room playing video games and what have you. But the one thing
Oh,
she
I
would never
remember.
take away is outside, and
Outside, yeah.
I'm thankful for that
I
because
could I can remember times getting in trouble at school and like thinking like Jesus Christ, when I get home I'm not gonna be able to go outside.
yeah,
No punishments, staying inside. No, I would. They'll take the video game. They'll take TV away, but outside never really took outside from me away. I you can go do that, but anything else you can't do that.
I
No.
remember one day. I just remember this day specifically. I don't know why,
hmm
but one of my
hmm
friends came over. His name is Joshua. He has a brother. I can't remember his brother's name off the top
hmm
of my head, but they came over to my house at like 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday.
Right.
And they were like, "Hey, man, we're gonna go to the baseball fields around the corner, man. We'll go play some football, baseball, whatever. You want to come?"
hmm
And I
hmm
was like, I asked my mom and dad, just to make sure that they were like, we didn't have anything planned, you know.
Right.
And of course, my parents, they would always do shopping either Saturday or Sunday, one of the two,
hmm hmm
because they both work Monday through Friday.
Yeah.
Now, I was at the baseball fields, which is literally right around the corner from where we lived.
hmm
And we went there. Like I said, it was about 8 o'clock in the morning. I came home around, I don't know, 1, 2 o'clock because I was hungry.
Right.
And so we went home, we ate. My parents weren't home. I'm pretty sure they were at the grocery store.
hmm
And so I know that my mom would have been okay with them being there. So, me, Josh, I think the kid's name was Brandon. I'm not 100% sure. And we
Right.
we were sitting there eating, and then Brandon, I think, was a little boy's name, and he goes, "Are we gonna get in trouble?" I was like, "No, my mom and dad are cool. They're more than okay with kids eating in the house." And then I
Right.
say, plus we're not planning on staying here. And then I went back out. We walked back to the park, and I probably didn't get home until about 7 o'clock when my dad went and picked me up. And it wasn't even like that bad. It's just my dad wanted us to come home because he didn't want me, overdoing it. But we
Yeah.
weren't playing like the whole time we would play. There was a group of us, and we were all there, and then some of them left, and then we went back, and then got more kids, and then you
Yeah.
know
Yeah. Oh man,
those were
like
the
I said, those,
days.
those are the days, man. Those are the days. Those are the
Yeah,
days that you could just and it'd be like I said, it'd be a group of us, and we just be somewhere, whether it's riding bikes through the neighborhood or
yeah.
riding bikes through the backside because we had a trail. We was lucky. I had a trail that lived that was in the back area of
Okay.
where we lived. So a lot of us did like the mope the ATVing back there, the
Oh, okay.
dirt
That kind of trail.
biking.
That
Yeah,
kind of trail. Okay, I was thinking like an
yeah,
actual bike
man.
trail or
Yeah. It was like
walking
yeah, it
trail.
was like
Okay, like a real
yeah.
trail. Okay, that's cool.
hmm Yeah. So like anytime like well, mostly everybody had, some type of BMX or, as we got older, some type of dirt bike, so
Right.
go-kart or ATV or whatever. It was always back there doing something. So it was just like I said, just outside, man. I don't think kids now understand like being outside as a kid was the place to be.
Yeah. Well, and it's crazy because like I was and one of the podcasts that we did, I covered a lady. Her name is Brown Sugar Foodie.
Mhm.
She used to stream under the name Shadow Lady Gaming.
Okay.
Her name is Cherie, and I remember me and her were talking, and I was like, I don't remember it being like as hot as it gets, like as a kid. Like maybe I just was, immune to it or
Mhm.
whatever. Because I
Mhm.
know where I live, it gets to be like 120 degrees during the summer, and that's not an
Oh,
exaggeration.
right.
There's been some summers where it's over 120 degrees outside. And it's like I don't remember it ever being that hot, but then I was like thinking about it, like, you know what? When you're a kid, you don't think about
You don't
stuff
think
like
about
that.
yeah, you don't think about stuff like that. You don't
The
think about
parents
it
do because
being
they're over there
hot.
going, "Here's some Gatorade, here's some water, make
Here's
sure you're
something to
staying
drink. You're
hydrated."
right. Right.
You
But we
know,
didn't think about it as kids.
yeah. I
We didn't think
remember
about it as
playing
kids.
basketball all the time, and that's a cardio, sport. Like you're
Hmm.
constantly moving, and we would play for hours and hours, and I don't, remember ever being like that hot to where we couldn't play.
But right.
But I mean, I'm sure it was. I mean,
Yeah.
nowadays it's like, shoot, if it ain't 75, I don't want to go out and play basketball.
Hmm.
I'm too fat and old.
Hmm. Right. Right. Right.
I would love to be able to do that again, though, man. I really would love to bring that back. And I know my town is trying to get better. They added
Hmm.
these new parks, and they're
Hmm.
doing a lot, because when we were kids, there wasn't all this stuff that we have. Like autism. I didn't know what that
Right.
was until I was older.
Right.
That wasn't something talked about a lot. There was
Yeah.
special need kids, but
Hmm.
most of
But it
them,
wasn't talked about. Wasn't
yeah,
talked
most
about.
of it, yeah, we didn't. And even some of my friends that I had, there was one kid that I had. I didn't know he had some kind of special needs,
Hmm.
until later, and I was
Hmm.
like, dude, I had no idea. I just thought you were, you just weren't, in our classes for whatever reason, and
Right.
and like he had some kind of condition. I don't remember what it's called, but it's a form of autism. And I was like, I had no
Hmm.
idea, no clue,
Right.
nor did I
Right.
really care. He's still my friend Joe. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
Right.
I don't,
Right. Right.
I don't
And
discriminate,
see,
but I
that's
mean,
and that look, and that's another thing with growing up how we did. We didn't judge no one. We didn't judge no one as kids.
yeah,
That was all we knew was that was our friend, and there was nothing
yeah,
wrong with he or she when they were hanging out with us. It was just
yeah. When you're with us,
you didn't
you're one of
look
us. Yeah,
right, right, right.
yeah. Sorry about that tangent. It started with food, and then we got to talking about growing up.
That's cool,
It's
man.
all
It's
part of
cool,
it,
man.
but you did say something, and I want to touch on. You lost your father at 21.
21.
Uh,
21.
what happened to your dad, if you don't mind me asking?
He had cancer in his
Okay,
throat. Yeah.
okay, okay. Sorry to hear that. How was that on you? Because you're still young, 21. That's really young.
Yeah, it was rough.
Was it
Because
sudden or did it like?
it was well, it for me it was kind of sudden
Okay,
because I was it was around it was still early age, and my dad was just always one of the ones that I looked at as the strength in the family.
yeah,
I consider my mom just as strong, but
right. No, I
my
know what you
so
mean.
my
We
my
always look at our
dad my
parents as
dad was
invincible.
yeah my dad was that that undenied strength. So
Right.
if he wouldn't even with it going on with him, we didn't know how long he had it, or how if he was living with it, per se, and wasn't letting us know what was going on. But like, if he had something going on with him, he just, he didn't change who he was. He didn't unwaver in who he was, and he
Yeah.
was just always that strength. So then when it happened, I was in the middle of JUCO school, and playing football and running track. So and it was just one of those times. I think it was my matter of fact my senior season. there at Illinois State, he had got sick real bad, and one of the games, one of my most important games, my senior game, he didn't make. And that following week, I came home to South Carolina, and we were kind of sitting, all sitting around, and being, he was in operation, he couldn't talk, but he could still, acknowledge us and look around and grip your hand and whatnot, and shake his head and whatnot. And I stopped and I asked him, like, why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell me? And I can see in his eyes then, like, if he could have told me or spoke to me then, even in his dying bed, he would have been, like, I wouldn't have wanted you to worry about me. It wouldn't have,
right.
And that's who my dad was, and
I feel like a lot of men were that way.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's the typical man of that era, because they don't want us to see pain. They don't want us to see that they're hurt, because they feel like they had to be the strong. And they kind of instill that into us, and that's why men's depression and all that kind of goes unnoticed, because we don't put it out there. We hide it, and that's just how we're trained. That his father probably did the same thing, and his father's father. Well, obviously your grandfather, your great grandfather. But I mean, I'm just saying, like, that's just how it was. And,
how it was, right? You didn't want to put any worry or any doubt on anyone else. With your personal situation or whatnot. And after his death, and as I got older, I kind of I would say got mad at him about it, because it was like, well, damn,
you have a right to be upset.
It was like, well, damn, it was moments. It was those moments that one moment that he missed, or those moments that he missed, that I was just like, well, damn, I kind of fault him for it. But then, as I got older and I thought about it, I was just like, no, he was really, teaching me and molding me. Like, look, I'm about to leave here, so it's got to be someone to, take over the reins of the man of the house. So I think with that, with me being a little bit selfish, but more and more as I got older, it was like, okay, he was preparing me for this moment to make sure that I was here for mom. Make sure you're here for mom. I don't want anything to unwaver. Like, I'm going in the physical, but spiritually, I'm still here, because I'm live through you and bring it out through you. And I'm just more and more thankful for that, because I have my mom, and she goes back now and she looks at some of the pictures of me and him together, and she was like, well, you were molded just like him, because you were the last of the boys, so very much looked like him and everything. So, and I could see why he did it the way he did. It was just to make sure make sure my mom was going to have someone to lean on. And,
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And it's you have every right to be upset. Obviously, you lost your father, and it's easy for us to, like, in the moment, that is, it's easy for us to be like, why? Like, why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you do this? Or why couldn't you do this? It's easy for us to, but sometimes, it does take some years for you to realize the reason why they did it was for reason A, reason B, and like I said, and we both agree that that's just how men were. We didn't show our feelings. We didn't, Now it's like, it's okay for you to cry, and we're in that society where it's, I don't know if it's the women. I don't know if it's just, that's just what it is transforming into. And then not in a bad way. It's a good thing. I don't know if the women are actually helping us by showing emotions, but also back in the day, to be fair, most households, only the man worked. Nowadays, it's everybody's working,
Everybody's working, right. Mm-hmm.
And so it's a whole different thing, and maybe that's probably it could be some of what it is. Is you know that's just the generation we're in. But even then, it's like I still find sometimes where I hide things from Marsha, not things per se, but like
Oh
feelings.
yeah, yeah, I do. I do with my girlfriend now. But then even with that, well, like what you and Marsha's case, y'all have been together for so long, and what even with me and my girlfriend's case, we've been together so long that they can pick up on those. They can pick up on
Right.
those things
They know.
bothering you.
They
So
know.
even when even when you don't want to tell, even when you don't want to talk about it, they slowly pull it out of you and notice that well, hey, I noticed something different going on here with you. What was going on? And I understand. I understand if you didn't want to talk about it then, or if you don't want to talk about it now, but I'm just letting you know that I seen something different in you change, and that it allowed me to react and act upon it, to ask you, are you okay? What's going on with you? You know what I'm saying? Do you need to talk to me about something, or do we need to talk to someone?
Yeah.
So
No, yeah, no,
yeah.
exactly. And it's crazy. Like that's how you know you have the right person in your life is when
Mm-hmm.
they
Mm-hmm.
some girls that I dated, they would know something wasn't right, but they wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
say nothing. They wouldn't bring it up.
Right.
They would just go, "Hey," they might say, "Hey, are you okay?" and then that'd be it.
Yeah.
But Marshall will go, "Hey, what's wrong?" And I'll tell her, "Oh, I'm fine," or and then she goes, "No, tell me what's wrong.
So,
You're not
what's really
fine.
going on? Right.
Yeah, what's
Mm-hmm.
wrong?" And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
the prime example was when we had to put Buster down. I still
Mm-hmm.
haven't got over that dog passing away, and
Right.
that was in August, and here we are in
Right.
January, almost creeping up on February, and I still haven't got
Right.
over that damn dog being gone. Like I
Right.
miss him every
Right.
single day, and she knows it. She knows,
Mm-hmm.
in a good way. She'll tell me something like, "Oh, I thought of this and made me think of Buster," or I seen this picture, and things like that she knows
Mm-hmm.
that will make me
Mm-hmm.
smile because
Right.
she knows I'm still hurting from that, and it's crazy that
Mm-hmm.
she knows without me even saying
Right.
it. Like,
Right. Right.
she made the comment the other day. She goes, "I definitely know that you miss Buster because," she goes, "every time you see a picture of him, I can just see it in your face. Your smile is different."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. Yeah, and even with good for and it doesn't have to even be a significant other that picks up on things like that. You got your good friends who pick up on that too. Like with Uno tags in at the most, and I told him this the other day when he was live and on TikTok. I actually typed it in on the screen, and I told him, I said, "You tag in with me on the most important times of my life that." Like, and it's just like it's just a small gesture of, "Hey brother, I'm thinking about you. You all right?" You
Yeah,
know, and
yeah.
I get that, and I get that from you also. Like, "Hey brother, you okay?" Even if you guys see me streaming, it's just like, "Hey, I'm tapping in with you. Hey, it's good to see you doing what you love." And it's like those crucial moments. Like, I don't think no one can really understand like what it gets you through, what it helps you push through, you know. And like I'm thankful for that, even from both of you guys, because like I said, y'all tag in the most crucial times of my life, and like
It's weird how that
I can,
works. It's weird how that
yeah,
all works. It's like
yeah,
King. I don't know. King Uno is somebody that I could not talk to for a few days, and then he'll message me
right,
like, "What's up, motherfucker? What's going on?
right.
Why ain't you talking to me?"
Why are you talking to me? Right, right, right,
It's
right.
just like it's funny how he is. It's like he knows to message me, and it's like I used to think like, oh, he's like what does he want, and it's like I used to
Mhm.
think like because that's how a lot of people are. They only message you when they need money, but no,
Right.
King Uno message people just to
When
message them, see how they're
just
doing, and
right, 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 and it's crazy because like when he first would do it, it was like what would he wouldn't even ask for anything, and it
right.
was like, well, damn, like
Yeah, he's a
it kind of threw me because I wasn't used to having someone
exactly.
that genuine, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Just being just stopping in and be like, hey, I don't want anything from you. I I just want to see if you're doing well. You know what I'm saying? I hadn't heard from you in a while, or with me being in absence, or rather, work schedules or whatever, not streaming, and it's just like, hey, motherfucker, I'm thinking about you.
Yeah, no, and he it's like the best thing about King Uno, and it's like I if he doesn't see me in the streams for a few days, he'll message me like, hey man, where you been? I've been live. Like,
right.
because he goes live. It's not like he goes live, at the same time every day. He goes live at sporadic times, and he does that on purpose, I think, so that way we are in his streams, or not necessarily us, but
we're still connected some way, somehow. Yeah.
And he's always one of those people that he goes out of his way to text, to see how I'm doing, or if he'll see like a post on Facebook, he'll be like, hey man, I saw you got partnered on Spotify, which, by the way, people, we are partnered on Spotify.
Oh, that's wonderful, man. That's wonderful.
He messaged me, like, hey, man, how you doing? How's Maddie? Well, actually, he calls Maddie Monroe. It's always been, like, because when we were picking names, that was the name he wanted. He wanted Monroe. That was one of the names that we had for Maddie, and then we went with Madison for whatever reason. Marsha loved it. I love it. I loved all the names that we had, honestly.
Right.
But yeah, King Uno's name was Monroe, so he calls her Monroe. Even in his streams, like he knows when she's the one sending gifts, because she always sends the corgis. She loves the corgis.
Okay.
The little dog shaking his butt. So something about it. So as soon as that gets sent, he knows it's her, because that's what she sends.
Right.
It's funny. And I'm honestly like happy for what he has right now, because I like his woman a lot more than I like the other one. No offense to her. The other one.
Right.
I never liked her. And I probably shouldn't be saying that, because I'm pretty sure she still follows the podcast, because I haven't lost any followers. In fact, I gained followers. But I'm just throwing that out there. I'm happy for what he has.
I'm happy for what he has, man. And he looks genuinely happy, man.
Yeah, he posted a picture on his TikTok. He got a haircut. Looks pretty clean. I need to do the same, because my hair is all fucked up. I have not even like facial hair. I look almost homeless, honestly.
Oh man, it's crazy, because I just recently went and trimmed down some of my beard, and when I took a picture, Uno was like, "What the fuck? You cut the beard?"
Oh shit!
He's like, I thought you would never touch that.
Yeah, I need to do it, because I'm supposed to be a manager, but yet I look like a homeless person working in the store.
All right.
But I mean, King Uno is one of the few people in the world that you can tell is genuine, and for a fact. And I actually have been blessed that I have a few people in my life, including the person I'm interviewing, that are truly genuine people in my life. And it's hard to see, like, talking about our childhood. It's like we didn't know anything about like what we have now. Like, people who you think are friends are really not your friend. They don't really care about what But I'm glad I have a lot of people in my life, like I said, the King Unos, the Alex Millers, of course you, and that same area. And it's like, it's great, because I didn't know I needed a friend like King Uno until I had a friend like King Uno.
Oh man,
I needed that friend.
It's crazy. It's crazy, because I said, I talked to him on his live, and I tap in with him all the time, and he taps in with me when I do go live. And I told him, like, look, I can't be as thankful for him and you, because just what you guys, being the friends that you are, not only have you helped me in that area, but y'all have helped me growing and being a content creator also. Like, I can't thank you guys enough. Like,
the thing is I always have goals for my friends. Like, I always tell myself, like, I want this person to be affiliated by this day. And when I met you, the first reaction I had is I wasn't too sure, because you were a Carolina Panthers fan. I'm like, this guy either is crazy or I'm joking. I didn't know anybody that liked the Panthers, to be fair. There's very few people. I only knew of one other person other than you that was a Panthers fan. And I'm being honest, I literally knew nobody. And now all of a sudden I'm starting to see more and more, not even recently, like since I met you. I know this year was a good year for them. But but prior to that, even then, I was like, wow, these people there's Panthers fans. Like, wait a minute here. Like, I thought the Lions had like, I thought we were like one of those kind of the same kind of teams. Like nobody talks about the Lions, but we have fans. We just suck,
Right.
And then I'm seeing the Panthers, and I'm like, maybe that's why. Like maybe I'm seeing them more and more because they're starting to look bright. They're starting to have a good future. And then I was like, King Uno introduced me to you, and I'll never forget it. I'm pretty sure he like somehow I don't remember how it happened, and he goes, "Oh man," he goes, "You're gonna like D. You'll like him. You need to talk to him. Like, you guys need to be friends, seriously." And I was like, "Okay, cool. I'll check him out." And then he sent me your stream or something, or something happened, or so he sent me something, and we were talking, and then I was like, "Yeah, actually, I do like this guy." And then I went in one of your streams, and I saw you were a Panthers fan, and I was like, "Oh man, this guy's gonna have a hard time beating teams because the Panthers were like one of the worst teams at that time."
Yeah.
The Lions were no better, but they were, they were like, the top 3 worst teams around that time frame were the Texans, Lions, and Panthers. Ironically, me, you, and King Uno, those are our favorite teams.
Right.
It's crazy. And then it's like I was like watching and enjoying the content. Like you were talking and reading comments, and I was like, this guy gets it. Like, he knows what it takes to be a good content creator. And even to this day, like when I go into your streams, and I know I'm not in there all the time, it's just hard because usually when you go live, I'm asleep now.
Right.
I'll go in there.
It's a time difference, yeah.
Yeah, and then I'll go when I am in your stream. I'll go in there like, "Hey, yo, what's up?" Or and then it's like, "Hey, Star King," and then somebody else will be in there. You'll be talking to them. You'll be asking questions like, "Hey, what do you guys think?" And like, what should I do? Should I run? Should I go for it? Should I kick a field goal? Whatever it may be.
Yeah.
You're always like, and like that's what good content creators do.
Right. Yeah. It's getting those people involved in what you're doing.
Right. And King Uno is the same way. And I always tell people, if you want to know what a real content creator is, watch what King Uno does, because he's probably the best content creator out there. He's out there making content every single day.
Every single day, yeah.
And I've always said that about King Uno, to the point that, my wife's favorite content creator is King Uno. That's her favorite. Like, she loves his streams. She don't go in them anymore, and a lot of it's because of Maddie, and King Uno's a little unfiltered, which is not bad. It's just Marsha's got to be careful because she's around Maddie more.
Right.
And we don't want her repeating certain words.
Right.
Especially when there for a while her favorite word was fuck. But I mean, no, but in all seriousness, like Marsha loved watching his Facebook streams back when he was on Facebook and all that. She enjoyed it. And I remember one day she said, I made a comment to her. I said, "Who's your favorite content creator?" And I thought for sure she would say my name, just because, I'm her husband. And she goes, actually King Uno is my favorite. And I was like, she goes, "I like Tatted. He's cool. Stony Loki's awesome." And I was like, all these names, but none of them were me. And I was like, "What about me?" She goes, "Well, you're like by default my favorite." Like, and I was like, "Oh, so you're saying you have to like me? Like you have to like my stream?" No, but it's just funny because it's true. But like I said, when it comes to being a content creator, there's very few things I look for. That's one of the things I look for is this person communicating?
How engaging are you with your community? Yeah, exactly.
Community is such an important thing because some of these guys, they get big time and they don't even acknowledge their chat
at all. It's like they forget. It's like they forget who made them,
who they are,
got them to what who got them to what they are.
It's like
because believe it or not, without the community, we're nothing.
Right, and King Uno, and you're the same way too, and I'm the same way. King Uno is like one of those. Even if he gets a roast, he gets excited. That's one penny. You're the same way. If you get a bit, or and I'm the same way too. I don't care about the monetary reasons because for me, streaming is for fun. For King Uno, I know this is like a way for him to make extra money, and for you, obviously, it is a way to make extra money. But you guys don't do it just for that reason. No. You guys do it actually to have fun.
No, and to tag off of that, I said about 2019, 2020, when I finally made affiliate on Twitch, I had a guy come through and he was suffering from cancer and couldn't get any of his meds. and you know, I told Uno the story. Uno was actually in the chat for a while, and then, you know, he kind of like, you know, dissed off because he had to go to work or whatever. But when Uno first heard the story, he was like, "Man, that's kind of awesome." And what I did was, in the middle of my stream, I just, you know, asked people, like, I put my Cash App up there, and I was just like, anything that you send towards that helps. And I let the chat know like where it was going, because it wasn't going to me. It was going to help this guy get his medicine to, you know, so he can, you know, rest that night from, you know, having chemo and going through so much pain in chemo. And believe it or not, like, we got that night, I think I got up to like $550. I sent it all to him.
Yeah.
I sent it all to him.
Cool. Like, it's good, you know.
It was us, and he was like, "Man, why?" And he asked me, you know, a day later, like, you know, why would you, you know, risk your end of monetary gain to help me? And I was like, because, you know, just by you being in my stream, you could have been going through, you know, some type of pain, but to know that, you know, I could help you in any type of way, you know, that's what it's all about with me. And you know, like, I tell everyone, my streams are not to have monetary gain for me. It's for you to come in, have fun. If you're having a bad day, talk about what you're feeling. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Yeah.
Talk about what you're feeling, because, you know, I don't want to be that person or be that content creator that can't save a life over money, over monetary gain. You know what I'm saying? I would rather save a person's life than to gain $1
in a heartbeat. Yeah. You know, and it's like, I would rather give somebody $1 than to make that dollar. You know, that's just how it is for me. And you know, you and King, you know, same way. And I understand that, like, you know, sometimes obviously we don't have it, and that's why, like, I'll post something, like, somebody messaged me like, "Hey man, I'm like $25 short," you know. Like, yeah, I don't have it, but let me see what I could do. You know, I'll message people, see what I could, you know, get. A lot of times I'll get lucky on the first hit. Like, I'll ask somebody like, "Hey man, so and so needs a little gas money. You got, you know, do you have it? You know, oh yeah, got you."
Right.
And, you know, it's funny because, like, you know, I'll use an example. King Uno once asked to borrow money from me, right? And I said, "Motherfucker, you ain't paying me back. Like, don't, like, not in a bad way. I know that sounded really bad. I was like, no, don't pay me back.
Right.
You know, just take the money. Like, you know, don't worry about paying me back. Like, oh, I get paid on. I don't care when you get paid. Don't worry about paying me back. You know,
don't worry about paying me back.
Yeah, don't worry about paying me back. And King Uno is an example. Like, you know, I know, like, I'm sure he probably feels bad whenever he asks for money because he knows damn well I'm going to tell him not to pay me back. But I mean, there's a difference between borrowing and somebody giving you money. Like, there's a big difference. Like, you know,
very big difference. Right.
I don't like to lend people money because then I feel like there's that awkward, you know, because, like, when I let somebody borrow money, I look at it as I'm never getting that money back, because I don't care, because unless it's a lot of money, like if it's like $500-$600, that's different. Like, you know. But if it's like, you know, $25, like, you know,
I'm not hunting someone down for $25. And in fact, I would rather give you that $25 than for you to come up and ask me like, "Hey, can I borrow $25?" And I'll be like, "Borrow?" You know, like, no, I can just give it to you. You know?
Yeah. No, because it's like, yeah, King Uno, I think he needed an Uber is what it was, and he was showing me, it was like, oh, he didn't even ask me per se. He just said that. He goes, "I can't afford an Uber, so I'm going to probably have to walk to work." And I was like, "How much is an Uber?" You know, just because I was curious. Right. It was like $23 or something like that. He didn't ask me. I said, "What's your Cash App?" And he goes, I don't know when I'll be able to pay you. And I was like, I didn't say anything about paying me. I said, "What's your Cash App?" Like, you know.
Right.
You know, it's like, I'm going to pay you. Like,
right.
But I mean, again, that's the way I was also raised.
And not only that, like, I would not be the friend who I am to have you say, "Well, I think I'm gonna have to walk to work." You know, knowing how some of these people are with you being on time and stuff like that. Why the hell would I let my friend walk? No, no, because you know, I know he would do the same for me, you know.
Yeah, if the shoe was in the other foot, yeah, for sure.
Right.
And that's the way King Uno is. Like, he's one of those people, he gives. And to his credit, there would be no Star King Gaming streams without King Uno because he's the one that set up my live streams and all the wonderful little alerts and everything that I have.
It wouldn't be no Pick City Gaming without King Uno.
Yeah, it's just that's the kind of person he is, and it's like I don't know, like with certain people, like especially King Uno, I never want them to ever pay me back. There's a few people that I kind of held a grudge against, and I was like, why do I hold a grudge against this person? They borrowed money from me, and they never like. I think what bothered me is like there was one person in particular. I'm not going to say his name. He was a big time content creator at one point on Facebook, and he hit me up and he goes, "Hey man, can I borrow $50? I think it was." And I was like, "Yeah, sure, bro, no problem."
Right.
And what upset me was the fact that he like ghosted me. He was never in my streams. He was never, like he never messaged me. Like I wouldn't care if he would have been like, "Hey man, I know I owe you money." Like it wasn't that. It was what dude, help me, come on my streams. Hit the like button, share, whatever, comment,
whatever, comment,
give me something. And like I kind of got into my feelings about it, and then finally I had a talk with one of his friends, and somebody who I'm a friend with, and I messaged him, I told him about it, and I said I'm a little salty about it because he borrowed money, never came into my streams, and he goes, "Dude, I'm his best friend, and he's literally never in any of my streams." So here I am. I'm all in my feelings about this guy not being in my streams and whatnot.
And here it is.
That's just how he is. He don't go into streams, and I'm like, and then like so, this guy set up a phone call. It was a 3-way call. It was me, him, and the guy that owed me money, and we squashed it. We had our little beef right then and there, and he was like, he goes, "Bro, I could pay you. Get paid on Friday," and I was like, "Nah, dude. You know what? Don't worry about it. It really wasn't about the money. It really wasn't."
Right.
It was just I was upset.
It was more to the support. It was more to the support.
I didn't feel like I was asking a lot, but then I'm finding out that this is a guy that does not like to go in the streams, and if he does, he'll just go in there, like, share, and be like, "Hey man, I'm at work, I gotta go," whatever. And that very rare does he do that. And I felt stupid afterwards because I was like, "Man, I'm sorry, I was all in my feelings about this." And he's like, "No, dude, I owed you money. I should have paid you back. I'm sorry." And I was like, "No, it wasn't about the money." I said, I don't know why I got upset, to be honest with you. Now that I'm finding this shit out, I felt stupid.
Yeah, it's stupid. Right.
It's funny how little things like that happen.
Right.
Totally. This is what I love about the podcast. We go in these tangents and totally off subject and whatnot. But because you grew up in South Carolina, is that why you're a Panthers fan, or was it just?
Yeah, definitely why I'm a Panthers fan. A lot, and I say this because a lot of my family are either Pittsburgh Steelers fans or Dallas fans.
Okay.
And before Carolina got there, before we got our team here in Carolina, for both of the Carolinas, I roughly was a Washington fan.
Okay.
Yeah.
They came around in what, like 96, the Panthers?
96. Yeah.
They were in the playoffs in what, like 97?
97, yeah.
It was like, yeah. No, okay, that's cool. Well, Washington, back then, they were the Redskins.
Yeah, they were the Redskins.
Had some good teams back in the 80s and 90s. They were a Super Bowl winner in the, what was it, 90? 91?
91, yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, yeah, that's cool. Art Monk was there. They had some really good players back in the day. Darryl Green was my favorite all-time Redskin.
Okay.
As a kid. And then Sean Taylor won my heart. And then, of course, what happened to him, RIP.
Yeah.
And then I actually got to meet a guy named Rod Gardner. I don't know if you're familiar with that name.
Okay. Yeah.
Wide receiver for the Redskins. I had an autographed football of his, and then he kind of won my heart and became my favorite all-time Redskin. But I love watching Darryl Green. Man.
I say as my favorite all-time skin. Believe it or not, was I like Darryl a lot, but I say early in his career, or I don't know if it was there early in his career, but Santana Moss.
Oh, he was a beast. He was. I want to say he started his career up with the Jets and then went to them after like 4 years, but he was a beast. He was a quick guy, got down the field fast, and a great kick return too. Kind of
Hmm.
underrated in that right. But yeah, Santana Moss is a beast. Now, what about some Panther players? Who are some of your favorite all time Panthers?
Oh man, all time favorite Panthers. Um, for a while, before the Cam era, Jake Delhomme,
Yeah, beast. Oh yeah,
Steve Smith early in his career,
good old
Thomas
89.
Davis,
Oh, Thomas
Thomas
Davis.
Davis,
Yeah, good running back.
yeah,
Yeah, I forget about him.
um,
I
yeah,
forget.
Thomas Davis, Tim Biaka Batuka,
That just
um,
that name alone, it's just you don't hear names like that, very
mm-mm,
often.
mm-mm, mm-mm. But yeah,
Another,
believe it or not, when Biaka Batuka came into the league, my dad went. We went to a Charlotte. Went to a game in Charlotte, and I had a replica Biaka Batuka jersey, and was coming through the tunnel at the end of the game, and hey, ask for autograph, and I had it hanging over the rafter, and sure enough, actually he grabbed the pin from someone further away from him and came and signed the back of the jersey. I still have the jersey still to this day. I'm
oh
going to
wow,
put it in. I'm going to put it in my man cave once I get it all fixed up, and it's going to be everybody's going to see it on the wall for a part of the stream and everything, because I've got it to where I want my background to be kind of like a Panther theme
right,
background. So yeah, um, Biaka Batuka, Luke Kuechly.
beast.
I even go as far as saying Kevin Green.
Yeah, he's my favorite
Yeah,
Panther for a
yeah.
reason. I actually sat next to him on an airplane. Me and my brother
Okay,
did. He was
man,
with
he's
the
huge.
he was
Kevin
with.
Green, you don't realize how big this
Oh
dude is
yeah,
in real life. He is
yeah.
huge.
And I was a kid. I don't remember how old I was. I think I was
Hmm.
like 11, 12 years old, and I felt like it was around that time frame. And he was actually playing
Hmm.
with the 49ers. He missed the team flight and had to take
Hmm.
another flight from SFO, which is San Francisco, all the way out to
Right,
Detroit. And they were
right.
they were playing the Lions that week. And he told us so many stories. And then he got our address and he goes, I'm gonna send you kids some things because you kids are really cool. I really like you guys. He sent us
Hmm.
autographed jerseys. I still
Nice.
have them. I gotta find them. I have no idea where they're at. But he sent a helmet.
Nice.
I don't have the helmet anymore. I actually gave the helmet away, but the
Hmm.
jerseys I still have, and God rest his soul, God bless him. Sad that he passed away, but he was actually my
Right.
favorite Panther player. When he went to the Panthers, I was like a diehard Kevin Green fan because of I
Okay.
actually met him. But yeah, that's cool, man. Like it's awesome. Like the eras that you're mentioning, and then of course Cam Newton came along, and
Hmm.
I will always say that Cam Newton, in my opinion, was one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the
Oh
NFL.
yeah, definitely, definitely,
And
definitely,
I have a
definitely.
lot of respect for him. I love his podcast. I love his personality. I would love
Yeah,
to actually talk to him and interview him. That would be like awesome.
yeah.
I would love that because I think he's a amazing person. It's
And it's crazy because coming up in the Cam era, watching Cam for as the player and as the person. I don't think a lot of people realize like how much fun it was, other than a job for him,
yeah,
and still to this day, you look at him on the ESPN set and his podcast, and he's genuinely having fun. That's
yeah.
that's who he
He
that's who he
loves
is.
he loves
That's
what he
who he
does.
is as a person. Yeah, it's very infectious. He
Yes,
is a
and
very infectious person.
I wish I could have been a player to have him on my team because he's one of those people you want on your team.
Hmm.
He may not like a lot of people I don't know, like yeah, he was a first overall pick. This is a guy that was a Heisman. This guy did a lot in college, but he
Hmm.
didn't get the recognition in the NFL that he deserved because a lot of people go, "Well, he didn't win a Super Bowl." Okay, so Dan Marino didn't
So
win one.
right, right,
I'm just throwing that out there. Like,
right,
there's a lot of
right. So
quarterbacks that
right.
didn't win them. You know,
Vinny Testaverde didn't win
yeah,
one. you
yeah.
know.
So what's the problem? Like, and it's like my comparison is always with Dan Marino, and I know he played at a different time, but Dan Marino
Mm-hmm.
played in a time where there was no mobile, and you had to be in the pocket, and he was a
Pocket.
great pocket quarterback. He was one of the best of his
Mm-hmm.
era, and yet never
Mm-hmm.
won a Super Bowl.
Right.
And to bring it to another one, John Elway didn't win a Super Bowl till his last 2 years,
Right.
and they had an amazing run game. And Terrell Davis, and that's
Mm-hmm.
of course Terrell Davis is. I don't know. A lot of people talk about him being a great running back, and yeah, he was, but he was always hurt towards the end. And I don't.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody asked me the other day, and this is crazy. I was actually talking to a friend of mine.
Okay.
Did you know that Warren Moon is the only African American quarterback in the NFL Hall of Fame?
No, didn't know that.
He is the only African American quarterback in the Hall of Fame, and he's also in the CFL Hall of Fame. For the record, he's not only in the NFL Hall of Fame; he's in the CFL Hall of Fame.
That's
crazy.
That's crazy. That's crazy because even with Doug Williams, I would thought that he would have been
didn't make it, didn't make the cut.
Wow.
I think, in my opinion, Cam Newton should be a Hall of Famer.
No doubt.
And I'm not a Panthers fan. I'm a diehard Lions fan. I actually never really was a Panthers fan. I rooted for them in the Super Bowl because I didn't like Tom Brady.
Right.
And I always been one of the underdogs kind of guys. I like watching the underdog win. I was hoping that the Panthers would win, and a lot of people talk about about Cam Newton not diving for the ball and that and the fumble. Like Tom Brady wouldn't have dove either.
Right.
People are getting mad. Like Cam Newton, he gave his heart, blood, sweat, and tears out there on the field, and people dog him for one play. This is a guy that played years in the NFL. And how many of these people that are talking shit played that many
about one play? One play. Yeah, all play.
About one play. And granted, yes, it was in the Super Bowl. If that would have happened in a regular season game, nobody would have ever brought that up, ever.
At all. It wouldn't even been a thought. They wouldn't have. Yeah, they definitely wouldn't have talked about it.
And it's sad because I think Cam Newton should be a Hall of Famer. Yeah, this guy was an MVP.
Right.
He was a Pro Bowl quarterback. Right. Almost every year, he was a competitor every year. And you look at what the team was before he got there and where they would end up going. They were a playoff team. They were consistently contenders.
Consistently in the playoffs.
And, he did a lot for that organization as a whole. Like, when I think of Hall of Fame players, that's what I think of as people that make impacts.
But he went on one of his podcasts and he said this. And I think a lot of I think Steve Smith was one of the persons that took offense to it. He was like, I was a winner going to play with a bunch of losers, and he didn't mean it as in losers, as in
the team. No, I know. I see what he
meant. He meant as in like.
There was a reason why they had the first overall pick.
This team had no fan base. He was like, it wasn't like a big city team.
It wasn't the New England Patriots.
He's from Atlanta. He's from Atlanta. So he said, he says, I could have went and played for anybody.
Right.
I could have went and played. He said I could have went and played for Atlanta. Off of right after, them losing Vic the way they did. He said, but Atlanta had already had their own aura, their own tradition of, Atlanta because Atlanta through Michael Vick. He said, so when Carolina came calling, it was just like, well, who was out there in Carolina that would bring fans to the game. And, for a while, when he even said it, when he looked into the stands, there were no one with his number one jerseys on, his jersey with the number one on. There were a lot of people out there with Jake Del Home jerseys on. And he was like, well, who the hell is Jake Del Home? And then he got to meet Jake Del Home, and it was just like, that made him embody of being the face for the team.
I could see him being. I could be wrong. I don't know him, very well. I could see him being somebody that loves the history of the organization,
Mm-hmm.
and him actually, because I remember him. They did a podcast and they were talking about like they brought all these guys in to Carolina for opening day, and
Mm-hmm.
he wasn't asked, and he was asked about that, and they asked him how he felt, and he goes, "I'm heartbroken. I
Yeah.
felt like I gave everything I could
To that city.
into that city, and for them to
Mm-hmm.
not call me, well, then they called him. They called him. I guess they didn't think that he would want to be there, and he says, "What
Right.
makes you guys think I don't want to be
Right.
here? I
Right.
love you guys. I love these fans. This is home."
Right. Right. He's like, and that's what he said. That's what he said. Charlotte is home. Charlotte
Yeah,
is home. And believe it or not, the guy has businesses around there.
yeah,
He has his own cigar shop around there
he
in
does.
the heart
Yeah.
of Charlotte. Yeah, in downtown Charlotte.
He also owned a restaurant at one point. I don't know if he still does.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't looked into any of his businesses, but he did own a restaurant. I don't remember if it was in Charlotte or around Charlotte.
Mm-hmm.
He owned a restaurant out there, and I was like, wow, this guy, he actually put businesses out there. He's trying to build a community out there, And
Right.
how many guys do that? And JJ Watt is one of the guys that did, and with the Houston Texans. He tried to put businesses out there. He tried to help the community. When they had a shooting, JJ Watt paid for all the funerals for the kids.
Yep.
I remember
Mm-hmm.
that. But there's not very many people in the NFL that would do that willingly.
Right.
And Cam was one of the few people that actually he cared about his organization. He cared about the
Mm-hmm.
fans, and
And love the city.
oh
Love the
yeah.
city.
And every time he scored a touchdown, what would he do? He'd hand the ball off to a fan.
And put off to a kid.
Yeah, to
Mm-hmm.
one of the
To a
kids.
kid wearing
Yeah.
a jersey. Yep.
Yeah, and that's how he was, and he wanted to give everybody the world there, and he felt like the team was spitting on him, and I can see why he felt that way, and I'm glad to
Mm-hmm.
hear that it wasn't that at all. They just felt like he probably
That
wouldn't want to be here,
he was too busy to be there. Mm-hmm.
and I can see why he was upset. I get it, and I also understand the organization side because Cam's a big name now. He's
Yeah.
got a wonderful podcast. He's on ESPN. He's big
Mm-hmm.
time. And they
Yeah.
probably felt like, oh, maybe he's too big for us. But I don't think he will ever be that way. I think he's one of those
Mm-mm.
people. He's very humble.
Yeah.
Just based off of what I see with him, and it's great that the Panthers have that organization the way they have it. I think Bryce Young is going to be the next big thing.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I said that funny enough. Somebody came into one of my streams and they were talking about you know bust, and the name that was brought up
Mm-hmm.
was Trey Lance.
Mm-hmm.
Did I feel Trey Lance was a bust? I said no. I said the only reason why I don't feel he's a bust is because it's easy to say like, oh, this guy isn't performing well right now. And Bryce Young
Right.
was the guy I said, the Carolina
Mm-hmm.
Panthers weren't happy with him because he wasn't playing to his college
To,
level. Well,
to
give
their
him a
standard.
couple years.
Yeah.
Let him build.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's the problem that a lot of
Build,
these teams
build the
have is
team
they don't
around
let
him.
these
Right.
guys grow.
Right. Right.
I mean,
And see, and even in Trey's defense, he wasn't even given a shot yet.
no. And he had a shot. He got hurt, and that
Right.
happens. He hurt his ankle or broke his leg or something like that. Something bad
Mm-hmm.
happened when he was
Mm-hmm.
with the Niners, and people were like, "Oh, he's a bust." He got hurt, and then he didn't have an opportunity after that. And then the
Right.
opportunities he had, like people were talking about him because he was with Dallas as a backup, and then he was playing with the backups, the backup offensive line, and they're like, "Oh yeah, he looks like a bust." How would you know he's playing with the second and third string offensive linemen? These are guys that
Right.
are, that are undrafted players and people that are,
Trying to make the team just like he is.
yeah, and so he's not playing with the number one team. He's playing with the
Mm-hmm.
backups. Like, put him out there with the starting lineup and see how he does, and then we'll talk.
Right.
But
Yeah,
it's sad
right.
because there's been players that have been overlooked, and then you get guys that are highly overpaid that don't do nothing. Look at Kirk Cousins in Atlanta. Like
Right.
they gave him a bag, and then they drafted Phoenix.
Right.
Now, Phoenix is going to be the starting quarterback of the
You gotta
future
be
for
the
them.
starting quarterback. Right.
And
Right.
it's like, Panthers, they were blessed to have Andrew Dalton because it's good to have a veteran presence to work with a kid, especially
Mm-hmm.
somebody who had some kind of success. Now, granted, he wasn't Super Bowl winning, but he did
Right.
have success with the Bengals. The Bengals were a
Yeah.
playoff team when he was there.
Yeah, sure was.
Red Rifle is, he's a good quarterback. Not great. He was a
Mm-hmm.
good, and it's good to have that. I like seeing that. These guys get these people that good backup quarterbacks to have to
Mm-hmm.
mentor. I wish more teams would do that. I wish a lot more teams would do that because I think a lot of these
Yeah.
guys that are in the NFL would have more success if they had that.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Lamar Jackson had it.
But then it also goes to that person. Is that person willing to be the mentor and quarterback? Because
Yeah,
you get the person like Flacco when he said, when Shador came in, he was like, I'm here to compete for a job. I'm not here to mentor a kid.
yeah,
And it's kind of a fucked up situation,
yeah.
that even with him competing for a job, you're not willing to mentor a rookie on how to be a professional.
It's sad. It's sad that that happens. Back in the day, like I remember Aaron Rodgers was drafted by the Packers, and they had Brett Favre as their starting quarterback,
Mm-hmm.
and they had Brett Favre for I don't know 4 or 5 years before Rodgers even
Right.
started. And look how well his career came out. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
he's still playing pretty good. I mean, even
Yep.
at his age, he's still playing pretty
Age.
good.
Yep. Yep.
And then guys like Flacco, they were forced to start right off day one almost because they didn't have
Mm-hmm.
anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And to be fair, the Ravens prior to Flacco really never had great
Had
success at
anyone?
quarterback other than McNair.
Nope. Nope.
You know,
Other than McNair, that was it. Yeah.
yeah, they had guys that on most teams would have been backups, but
Mm-hmm.
they had such a good defense, it didn't matter. I mean, they won a Super Bowl with Trent Dilfer as their quarterback.
Right.
I'm just throwing that out there. Trent
Right.
Dilfer was a
Right.
Super Bowl winning starting quarterback because it was either him or Tony Banks.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
Dilfer was more accurate. But I mean, that just shows like you don't necessarily have to have the greatest
Have
quarterback. You just got to have a
nope.
good enough quarterback.
You got to have a good enough one who doesn't turn over the ball,
Yeah,
5 or 6 times to the other team, giving the other team, opportunities to score more points, and just learn how to manage the game and get it to your playmakers. Now we see the quarterbacks now. Mahomes, big arm, can scramble a little bit. Lamar scrambling, read option.
yeah.
Um, you know,
A lot of
even
college
with
based
Josh,
offenses out there.
even with Josh Allen, big
Yeah.
arm, but still can run. Like
I
we
mean,
see
even
those.
Rodgers was a runner too. He could
Hmm.
run back in the
Hmm.
day. Now, yeah, he can still run, but he's not running like he used to.
Right.
And again, neither am I.
Neither am I. Mm-mm.
Well, let's get back to you before we go too far. Uh, to more of the current day. You made a
Okay.
comment. Your mom's still alive, and
Yep.
that's
Mom's still alive.
that's
Yep.
a huge blessing. You,
Yep.
you mentioned your father passed away at 21.
Hmm.
Looking at your life now, as
Hmm.
we are now, do you think that you're in a good state of mind right now, like mentally, based off of what
Mentally,
you've been through?
mentally, I have my days. Like any normal man.
Correct.
I have
Correct.
I have my days. I have my up and down days. But as far as mentally where I am, I think I'm mentally where I am. I'm mentally stronger now than I would have been if my dad had passed at around this time.
Yeah.
And that's just because it molded me to the strength that I have now.
Right. You
You
grew.
know.
You grew
Hmm.
differently. Yeah. So, like, let's just say hypothetically, your dad passed away at 41. You think
Hmm.
you you think
Yeah, it'd been a little bit more rougher. Yeah,
yeah.
it really
No, I
would.
see what you're
Hmm.
saying. I get it because you had the time to grieve. You also had the time to
Hmm.
grow. Where if your dad
Hmm.
passed away, let's say 5 years ago,
Yeah.
you probably wouldn't be in the same place mentally as you are now, and that's great. That's
Right.
awesome. Like
Right.
you said, every dog has his day. There's always
Hmm.
something that can set your mood off, and that's why I'm thankful to have guys like him that go live, and people that are in my life that I could just message like, hey man, how you doing, and like just
Right.
simply me going out of my way to message somebody. Sometimes it's just me wanting to talk to somebody,
Talk to somebody. Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
like I message certain people just like, hey man, how you doing? I mean, and there's been times where I don't talk to some people for like
Hmm.
days on end, and that's it's nothing against them. It's just I got a daughter that I take care of. I got my
Right.
wife that I'm
Right.
spending time with.
Life is
Um,
life, and the life is
life,
actually life.
yeah, life
Right.
is actually life, and yeah, it's like today after I get off this podcast, I got to go to the store. We got to do our shopping for the week, and then spend time with Maddie because I love
Right.
my father daughter time. But
Right.
yeah, it's just I asked that question to ask the next question that I want to ask,
Hmm.
and that the life thing is so important to me. To mentally to know
Hmm.
that our past and some people they let their past define who they are, and it's nice to see that you didn't let your past define who you
Yeah.
are because you grew you mentally,
Hmm.
physically, and everything else. You grew. The question I want to ask is,
Hmm.
what would be some advice for somebody, let's say 21 years old that just lost their father? What would be your advice to, let's say, hypothetically, let's say you're talking to you at 21,
Hmm.
yourself at 21. What would you
Hmm.
tell yourself at 21 to maybe help with the grieving process? Obviously, you're not going to get over it. It's not
Right.
something you just get over, but
Right.
to help with the grieving.
Most of all, just talk to someone. Um, talk to someone. Whether it's a close friend, or a significant other, or just someone that you genuinely love to be around, and loves to be around you. Talk to them. Tell them how you're feeling, because you know um, with mental awareness and growing, mentally and emotionally and stuff. Even with us men, we're taught not to share our feelings, or not to talk about our feelings.
Right.
And sometimes that can be the downfall of being that bravado of toughness or whatnot. You're allowed as a man to have a soft, weak moment. You know what I'm saying? You're allowed to cry. That's a part of you being human. Because if you're not crying, or you're not showing any type of emotion, it's almost like robotic. And then it comes times where it'll come into something else, like like a depression state. So
Exactly. Yeah.
use your resources. If you got someone who genuinely cares about you, use them as a resource and talk to them, regardless of what it is. Don't hide anything. And if you can be that open with them, and they will understand and they won't judge, don't hide anything.
Yeah, and that's great advice to even to today's society, not just your 21-year-old self, but
Hmm.
even in today's society, that's great advice to give because the way I see things, and I'm also looking at it, hindsight being 2020. Obviously,
Hmm.
I'm almost 40 years old. I'll be 40 in August.
Okay.
And I've dealt with death. My grandma, my grandpas, uh, other people, aunts, uncles. I was blessed that I never knew my biological father. He passed away in 2008. So for
Okay.
me, I never knew him. So I wouldn't call that a loss per se.
Hmm. Hmm.
I'm blessed that my stepdad, who helped raise me, stepped in. He was not my stepdad. He's just a step in dad. He stepped
Right.
in and
Right.
took over the role. And I'm blessed that he's still here,
Right.
even in today. Like, I'm almost 40 and I still have, in my opinion, both my parents, and it's like,
Hmm.
when I hear stories of people that lost their parents, it's like I'm thankful that I have what I have. I'm
Right.
grateful. I really am.
Right.
It's a blessing, and Marsha lost her mom in 2008 as well.
Hmm.
And and that was her mother that she was around, and I know it's harder on her because she can't go to her mom for motherly advice.
Right.
She's having to do this alone, and you saying what you said is so true because she's going through it alone, but she's not alone. There are people
Hmm.
out there, my mom included, and people out there in your situation,
Right.
even now, today's, you have me, you have King Uno, who are two people
Mm-hmm.
who we're gonna crack jokes, we're gonna have fun, and we're gonna be there.
Be
We'll be
there,
that
right?
we'll be that shoulder to cry on. And there's people out there that you don't realize you need. Like I said earlier, King Uno was somebody I didn't know I needed. I didn't
Right.
know I needed him in my life. And I am
Right.
forever thankful I have him because I would have never met you. I would have met a lot of
Mm-hmm.
these people that I talk to on a regular basis. I met through King Uno or other content creators.
Mm-hmm.
It actually all started with Bacon, ironically.
Right.
That's how I
Mm-hmm.
got to meet King Uno. If it wasn't for
Right.
Bacon, I would have never met King Uno. And
Right.
it's crazy to look at where everything is. Everything fell into
There-
place.
It's crazy how you look at it and everything's came full circle now.
Right. And it's like, I used to think COVID was this horrible thing, but now I'm starting to see it as a blessing
Right.
because I met some of the most amazing people in my life, including you,
Right.
because of COVID. Everything being shut down, we couldn't go nowhere. So we were all at
Because,
home playing
yeah,
video
right.
games on our days off and what have
Mm-hmm.
you. And it's like I'm forever grateful, and I'm glad that you could tell that story. I left a lot of meat on the bone because we're gonna do a part two for sure.
Okay.
Uh,
Definitely.
I want to do multiple parts with certain people, and you definitely are one of them because I know there's a lot you could tell. That's why I didn't ask
Yeah.
as many questions as you probably thought I would.
Yeah.
I know it sounds weird, but I left meat on the bone for a very good reason because I want there
Yeah.
to be a part
Definitely.
two, maybe in a part three.
Definitely.
Um, Obviously, you know, I I cannot thank you enough for doing this, but I end every podcast with two questions, and I want to ask the first one is actually it all started with King Uno. King Uno used to ask
Mm-hmm.
this question in every podcast. He'd go, "Who's King Uno?" And it was always a question he would ask. Well, now we're continuing that because it's still the
Mm-hmm.
podcast, just minus King Uno. So that being said, who is Star King Gaming to you?
Oh man, Star King Gaming he's a brother, he's a friend, um, someone I can lean on when I definitely need a shoulder to lean on, and just the most outstanding person that I've met, on Facebook, doing what he does, being the content creator who he is. I mean, just genuine person. I wouldn't be who I am without Star King Gaming.
Hey man, that's awesome. I appreciate it. And I ask that question, and I'll always tell the person who I think they are. When I think of when I think of you, first thing that comes to mind is the first word comes to mind is brother. I don't
Hmm.
even consider you anything other than a brother. I think of you as somebody that I know I need in my life, and I'm thankful that I have you in my life. I look at you
Right.
as somebody I can see being in my life until the day I die, and
Right.
I mean that.
Right.
And I genuinely mean that. I can see you being there, even if you know we don't talk as much as I, probably should. And that's a lot. That's just life.
That's just life. Yeah,
Life
that's
is
just
life,
life.
and I know that if I message you, you're gonna answer. It
I'm
might
gonna
not
answer.
be
Yeah,
right away, but it'll be as soon as you see the
I'm gonna
message.
answer. Yeah, I'm gonna
But you
answer.
you
Yeah.
will answer. So I appreciate what we have, and it's like the word friend gets used a lot. I don't look at you as a friend. I look at you as a brother who I
Yeah.
happen to be a friend with. You know,
Yep. Yep.
and I love the fact that me and you have this amazing bond where we could talk, and I know I can be myself around you, and you can be yourself around me, and none of us judge each other, and it's
No,
great
at
because
all. None.
I can message you if I'm having a bad day, and I know you're gonna say something that's gonna make me instantly go, okay, I'm better. That's all I needed was just that,
Yep.
and it's
Just
something.
that. Just that extra push. Just the
Yeah,
extra push, man. That's
sometimes
what. That's.
like whenever I have any kind of news, I like to share it with you because I know you're gonna say something even more positive on top of the news.
Hmm.
So I appreciate what we have. The brotherhood is definitely amazing. Now, the last question I'm going to ask everybody, and I started this because of a podcaster I follow named Chris Van Vliet, and he talks about gratitude being such a huge part of his life. Every morning and every night, he starts his day the same way by saying three
Hmm.
things that he is grateful for. As we sit here today, what are three things you are grateful for?
Um, I'm grateful for my parents. And you as a friend, and Uno as a friend, because without those three things, it wouldn't make me who I am. It wouldn't, even in the smallest of big head moments, I can lean on one of the three that will bring me back down and humble me. And like I said, I can't thank you guys for it because, like I said, it just genuinely made me who I am. I know that I can call on you on any of the three at any given time, and it may not be right away.
Right.
I may not get an answer right then and there, but I know if one of you sees, any type of message, or you see something going on, or even if you don't see me for a while or hear from me for a while, you tag in, you tap in and be like, hey, you all right? Let you know you're on my mind, and I'm just calling to make sure your well-being is okay, your mental is okay, and how are you coping through life right now?
Yeah, so, that's amazing, man. It's it's great that what you said, because I don't think I realized how much of an impact I made on a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And to hear some of the things that you just said, it makes me really even appreciate our brotherhood even more.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like at the end of the day, everything has its place and time, and God, rather He puts it there, or sometimes He'll just kind of nudge it there. Just for us to see it. King I am forever grateful for it, because I would have never met you, and I'm grateful to have you, because me and you have this amazing brotherhood, and I'm thankful more so than anything, because I don't have a lot of people I can truly call a true brother friend. And even my own brother I don't talk to as much as I talk to a lot of you guys, and that's saying something. My brother's kind of doing his own thing, and that's fine. He's living his life, he's doing what he needs to do, and eventually I know he's going to come around. He's just going through some things, and it is what it is. But to have people like you, King Uno, and a few other people, Marsha included, it really puts life into perspective. And like I said, I hear these things that you guys say, and there's a lot I take out of it, believe it or not. Like today, you made a comment that your father passed away. I'm thankful I have my stepdad, and even though he's not my real biological father, he is my father in my eyes. And I have my mother. Both of them are here with me, and not everybody has that. In fact, a few people have lost, parents, and that I'm very close to, including Marsha,
right,
and whatnot. And it's like, and really hearing these stories and hearing these things, it really makes my life more complete, because it makes me really appreciate what we have together. We're both growing together. Even to this day, I'm still learning things. So, like, I learned a lot about you today, and I guarantee you when we do the next podcast, I'm gonna learn even more. I'm thankful for that, man. This is amazing, man. I cannot thank you enough for doing this. I really appreciate you.
They appreciate it, man.
Hey, man, I can't wait to do part 2, man.
Oh yeah, definitely a part 2 and a part 3.
Oh, for sure. All right, brother. I love you, man. Thank you.
Love you too, bro.
What an amazing podcast. I learned a lot from D about him. I can't wait to do part 2, part 3. Left a lot of meat on the bone for a reason. Now let's talk about giveaways. And I'm going to tell a story. The giveaways are going to be for followers of the podcast only. You must be following me on Spotify. So please send me a screenshot that you are following. Send me a screenshot that you are listening to the podcast. Okay? And you will be entered to win. It's all going to depend on you guys. It's all going to be based off of how many listens we get, how many likes we get on YouTube, how many downloads we get. However much you want to look at it, we are going to be doing a massive giveaway. I cannot wait. But in order to be entered, you must show me you are following. Now let's talk about racism. And I may have told this story before, but I'm going to tell it now for the podcast. Growing up, I didn't know what racism was. I really didn't. Obviously they teach you about slavery and things like that, but one thing they never really taught is racism. I didn't know certain words were bad. And growing up, my parents, my grandparents, they didn't teach us anything about racism. I didn't know anything about being different. Like, my grandpa was Indian. I didn't know that, you know, white people took over the land and, basically took over the Indians. I didn't know nothing about any of that stuff. I learned a lot. I had cousins who were African American, who are African American. I have one of my brothers, Devin. I've known him. I loved him. He's my brother. And till death do us part. And he's part African American, and no, none of my family treated him any different than they would have treated me. So I didn't know what racism was until I was actually older. I remember specifically I was hanging out with these group of kids that I always hung out with, and I remember I was saying the N word, but ninja, obviously not with the hard R. And I remember this very well because I lived it. And one of my aunts pulled me aside and she said, you can't say that word. And I said, what word? And she goes, ninja. And I said, what do you mean? I've always said that word. She goes, it's a very bad racial slur. I had no clue. I felt bad. I felt horrible. So I went to the guys and I told them, I said, hey, I didn't know that the N-word was a bad word. I said, well, you're cool, so you're allowed to say it. And it made me think, like, looking at it now, hindsight being 2020, obviously I'm older. This was when I was like 18, so this is over 20 years ago. I'm not going to tell you how old I am. I don't want to feel older than I already am. Anyway, I remember, when it happened versus now, and I'm thinking to myself, like, how blind I was to everything. And I remember, like, thinking about what they said and what it means to me now. Like, I'll be honest, kind of upsets me. Like, yeah, it's okay for you to say because you're cool versus whoever else might have said it. And I remember, like, at that time, I was like, oh, okay, cool. Well, y'all my ninjas. I'm going to keep saying it. And, like, being kind of stubborn, but I did kind of stop saying it. King Uno, I think King Uno was the last person to ever make me say it. And I'll be honest, I oopsed. I didn't even mean to say it, but he was like the happiest man in the world when I said it. He created a wrestling thing that he had, where he would, like, I was the general manager of like SmackDown or NXT or something. I don't even remember what it was. And he told me that Booker T and Big E Langston were taking over. They jumped the champion and all this stuff. And he goes, the Ninjas are taking over. And I repeated what he said, thinking like that was actually kind of a cool name for a tag team. And I was like, the Ninjas taking over? Is that the name of the tag team? And he goes, oh my God, I got Star King to say it. I hadn't realized that I had actually said it. And yeah, I did feel bad afterwards. And I was like, oh man. Luckily King Uno knew I didn't mean no harm in it. Of course, I'm not that type of person. However, that doesn't make it right. And obviously, again, I'm looking at it from an outside lens now. And it's not something I'm proud of. But it's something I did learn from. When I see the things that are going on in life today with the whole ICE situation and a lot of racist remarks are being made. And I see kind of both sides of everything. And I'm not saying I'm supporting ICE by any means. And I'm not saying I'm against ICE by any means. I'm saying I see both sides very well. Both sides have very strong points. I'm not getting in the middle of it. I'm a legal American. I have no say in it because I am legal, 100% legal. I was born here. I'm allowed to live here. Yes, I've kind of been a little bit here, a little bit there, but I was born and raised out in America. So therefore, I get to say I'm an American. Now, does that make me better than anybody? Absolutely not. I am no better than anybody. And I hate seeing things like, well, they shouldn't be in this country. You know, I get it. I understand you're upset about them being in our country, possibly taking jobs and so forth. I get it. I also understand that they came to America for a reason. And maybe because I have Hispanic people in my family. My cousin Emilio, his wife, her name's America. She barely speaks English. She knows enough to get by, but barely can hold a conversation, really. And maybe that's why I'm a little bit partial, because I do have family that, were here illegally at one point. And maybe that's why I'm a little bit, impartial to all of it. Maybe. And it also could be that that's just how my parents raised me. It's crazy to see that all this time there is still racism going on, police brutality, and so forth. I remember I was watching something, and this guy was not doing anything wrong. Walking down the street, the cops were trying to get him to, come over. He had his AirPods in or whatever, so he didn't hear. And then next thing you know, the cop slams him on the ground, and he goes, "What the, F?" And they said, "We told you to hold still, and you were moving. You're lucky you didn't get shot." And he goes, "I didn't hear y'all. I had my music playing. I'm sorry." And then they were like on him, and luckily the cops got off him, because I think they realized that he really did have music playing, and it was pretty loud. And they were like telling him that he needs to, turn it down, especially when there's something going on. To be fair, the guy was probably in a zone, trying to get to work, trying to get to wherever. But I remember I seen this video, and I was like, the first thing I heard was a lady yelling, "You only did that because he's black, blah, blah, blah. If he was a white boy, you wouldn't have done that." And the cop said it didn't matter what color he was. I was trying to get his attention, and he kept walking. And I remember I watched this video and thinking to myself, like, the cop should have never said anything. He would have been smart just not to say a word, because the lady was obviously mad. He should have just never said a word. I don't know whatever happened from that, but I mean, it still shows you that there are people out there still see it and still believe it, and it's there in some senses. There is racism out there. There are people that are racist. I'm not going to sit here and say they're not. Now, are they all cops? No, I'm not saying that either, because I don't think all cops are bad. I don't think all cops are racist. I don't think that all cops look at African American people to be the same. They're all bad. I don't see that. I don't see that personally. However, I'm one of those people. I always give people the benefit of the doubt. So I'm a little different than most people. I never had to deal with it. I'm what they call privileged, which kind of sucks, because I say kind of sucks because I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know what it's like to be in their position. I wouldn't know. I couldn't help nobody. But again, I told my story that I wanted to tell. Talking about racism, I do apologize that this podcast did go a little bit longer. It was an amazing podcast. I enjoyed it. Thank you, D, for doing it. I appreciate you, brother. But you guys are going to have to listen, because next one's going to be even better. All righty, guys. I love you guys. Thank you guys so much all for listening. This was amazing. Y'all have a good one.